Hey, everybody, welcome back to Anthony Bar.
Thomas. I tried to like many. I was like, yeah, we can almost other sentences and then add. So, but yeah, how are you doing?
Night, and there's a lot quiet typing together. But announcement, I wanted to chat with you. I know much that Go and the Surface Pro X came out this week. What do you think? Something I didn't even. But have you had a chance yet at what's
Yeah, kind of like a couple of rooms. Right, there was a big shortly before when some of the rooms started that there are devices coming out, and like one like got a couple of one brand new laptop dot 12 Surface laptop, and it comes out very low price point, like really for get Surface devices in hands. And to be honest, like I haven't had the chance to touch one, but looks like a pretty solid device for that price point. It looks very stylish. It comes like in different colors. One like the platinum one we all know. And then we have the sandstone, very lovely, which they also have for the laptop,
yep.
which is kind of like a. And then a very light blue. It actually looks. Oh, this I devices much
about the Surface and the Gen starts at RAM configurations of storage up. It's off packed into the device. Have you had it exit all? I'm intrigued by that one as it's last long functionality, capabilities. Pro X, almost like out there. But it is
just brought up so many things I want to
let's have at it.
So first, coming back to the thing on laptop, as said, like there's interesting price point, like an i5 processor in it, and in some of the models, can like better example get in the Go Surface Go, basically the two-in-one tablet keyboard. So you get definitely a better, get kind of like a laptop, right? Experience,
Yep.
and it comes in sizes, different color sizes, and the lowest that right, except if you're buying it, which is that much, because it comes like if bytes of memory comes with 60 gigabytes storage as a MMC, which is not as fast as SSD. However, it's down in price. Right? And you have the other, so basically almost they both get SSD is 128 and the other 5. That I think in a way that they be that is a little bit more, second model higher in price than the first. not that much difference, but you will realize that from performance. And again, it's a nice, but still has a like. I like to have a print read have on power button when you press that, log in with finger as well. So we can get a like low fingerprint. And yeah, the device of X.
Yep.
I had like last year still offer with custom SQ is a custom Microsoft chip. Microsoft and Qualcomm, and to be honest, I'm happy with that device. Right? There are certain, for example, you cannot like run 6-bit Excel applications. Emulate the Excel application. 32 can, and obviously have the native. So that is great. That is also with the team announced, I think, in a couple of that Windows 10 on ARM get application emulations. In that case, you can the application as which run on Windows 10, right? So you don't need to run this application, that device for. And then with the update have two. So first of all, gets obviously a performance bump. I haven't seen any benchmarks yet on how big that is, but that's obviously always welcome, right? And the second one really is I think the only concern I have with my current Surface Pro X, it's the color. So the current one, well, the last year's one, or you can also buy the current one in black, it looks very nice and sleek, but it picks up fingerprints so damn easily, right? So it's there's no way to avoid it, and it annoys me, especially because it's a device you touch very often. So now it comes in this beautiful platinum version, and I personally think it's the most beautiful Surface I think they ever showed. So super excited about that. And you think about picking one up of these?
At the moment, no. I'm very intrigued by the Surface Pro X, especially because with solutions like Windows Virtual Desktop, Azure Arc, the ability to do most of your work in browser doesn't require to run the application natively on the device. The only reason I'm not looking at that right now is because I'm currently trying to replace my main machine for production. And first, thank you, Richard, Matt, and Akos that are in the chat room helping our producer Pierre squash out the sound bug that we're apparently having. That could be my machine that's the culprit because I've had notorious problems with it. That right now, and producer Pierre is saying he didn't do anything, and I'm not blaming you. I'm saying it's most likely my machine that's causing the issue. So thank you everybody and for your patience while we get this corrected. But I am looking at getting a tower. I am looking at getting a tower to replace this machine just because I need the bandwidth and these compute cycles that unfortunately this machine can't provide me to do our live streams. So stay tuned because that's hopefully coming, fingers crossed, next week. But Thomas, we are 10 minutes in. Shall we get started with the news?
I could talk about Surface stuff.
I know you can.
We also have some awesome accessories like the new wireless display adapter, some new mice and designer keyboards and all of that. So we could talk all the way. But yeah, let's go on with the little bit more Azure focused news here.
Well, before we jump in, are you getting any of the new devices?
I definitely get the new display adapter. That's what I'm getting. Yep. I obviously have too many Surfaces laying around here right now, so I cannot really justify the Surface laptop Go. However, since really I personally think that the Surface Pro X, especially when it will support also other 64-bit applications, right? It is my favorite device by far. It's my favorite Surface by far. And again, I like a lot of them. I also like the Surface Laptop 3 and so on. But with that small change with the color and the CPU, I'm really thinking about it. But however, I'm not traveling that much right now. It's not very economical to get one. So I will keep it. I will wait a little bit and think if I really need it. But as soon as we probably start traveling again a lot, I probably will think about getting one of these.
Maybe what you can do with your Surface Pro X1 is you can sign it, and then we can auction it off for a good cause. Or actually, we might reach out to somebody else to sign it. Never mind. Hold off on that for now. So, and he knows who, and we're not going to say who. So we're going to continue on with the news. First up, this is a big one. ZeroLogon is now detected by Microsoft Defender for Identity. This is the attack that's occurring in terms of an exploit for NetLogon onto somebody's domain controller. The patch has been issued. So if you haven't patched your system yet, do so. But if you haven't and you are running Microsoft Defender, you now have the detection capability made available to see if somebody's attacking your DC. Now, with that being said, that individual that is attacking would still require elevated administrative access in order to gain access to your DC. But you should have the patch put forth. And if you haven't done that yet because of testing or specific applications that disallow you from doing so, that would change the functionality of your app, do make sure that you have your Defender in line in your organization doing the detection. It will pull the information that somebody is actually exploiting your NetLogon using this.
Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. Again, I think Sarah has a fantastic blog post on the whole Microsoft Defender story we're currently having. There was a lot of interest. Also, I think you and Pierre did some great videos on it with like Heike, for example, on that, some special editions. So go to our YouTube channel, definitely watch that. Super happy about these things. The next thing I want to talk about is actually some news we have with Azure Backup. And so Azure Backup, there are a couple of new things, and they basically summarized a little bit of what they're actually offering, because there's so many different new things happening. Also, a lot of these parts were announced during Ignite. They probably did not get too much attention because of all the announcements, but there is this great summary blog post here about that. And I don't want to go through everything. You can read it by yourself, but there are some interesting things, and you can see where this is going. So, for example, now like a lot of database support, right? If you have seen here now, we can the Postgres team and the Azure Backup team basically work together to bring Azure Backup for that. And again, get these classic option to have like 10 years of retention, which I find amazing. And this is also not something new. We offer that for most of the other Azure services. You can back up with Azure Backup as well. And then what also is probably making a lot of our customers happy here is the actual consistent snapshot support for Oracle and MySQL databases running inside Azure VMs. So if you're running Oracle on top of Azure or MySQL on top of Azure, this is definitely something you're going to be happy about. There's also some work going on into scaling and capabilities like this. One thing I want to highlight here, again, also like interesting things for SAP and Azure Files. But what I want to show you as well is now you get support for zone redundant storage for your backup data, right? So before we offered basically local redundant storage. So your data is basically in one Azure region in one of the data centers. You have multiple copies, obviously, but still, if you at the moment you wanted to have a little bit more flexibility and more protection or more resiliency, if you will, then you had to go to geo-redundant storage, which then obviously is more expensive. And you probably didn't need that. You just wanted to have a little bit more resiliency, but not necessarily geo-redundant, right? And now with the new options for zone redundant, which is currently in preview, you can have that as well. So there's a lot more, again, a lot of exciting news around Azure Backup.
That's awesome. And you know what? It's something that's becoming, more and more used as the features and functionality come out. A lot of people say, I don't have this capability of X. And that's why I'm doing everything on premises for my backup implementation. But to have everything on Azure Backup, so simple to implement, so simple to retrieve as required. The net new functionality becomes more granular in terms of what you're backing up, which is awesome. It's great to see how the solution or the services are evolving, again, based on the feedback provided by everybody, using the services. That was a mouthful, apparently. So let's continue on with the news. So I'm just going to go back in, and of course it's frozen, and now it's not frozen. All right. So shared disks on Azure Disk Storage is now available in a broader set of regions. Now this offering of shared disks was made back in July, but was in terms of a limited set. And now you have the availability for any region that currently supports Ultra disks to have the ability for the shared disks on Azure Disk Storage. What does that mean? When you have your file repositories, your databases, what have you, on the shared disk, it is accessible by both Windows and Linux. So if your implementations that are harnessing that capability of storage in terms of resources, prior to, it was a minimal set of regions that had this functionality. Now, all regions that support Ultra disks have the ability to capitalize on the shared disk offering. That's huge because now you have the ability for a broader access to your shared disks on Azure Disk Storage for both your Linux and your Windows machines, again, in multiple regions, as opposed to the limited set that was out initially. This is GA. This has gone available as of September the 30th. So do check with your regions in terms of and this blog will provide you the ability to check your region to see if you have Ultra Disk made available in your region. And that would then entail that you would have shared disk access on Azure Disk Storage in your region as well.
Awesome.
And producer Pierre reminded us that it supports traditional clusters as well.
Amazing stuff, amazing stuff. Again, if you haven't tried it out, especially if you build like these clusters, this is a pretty cool option. Again, and yep. I know from experience, a lot of people ask for that for a very long time when it came to bring that to Azure. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, again, I'm all into summaries these days. So the next one really is a summary about cost management and billing updates for this September. And the team did a great job bringing all these together. We have a couple of lists here, and I want to just highlight a little bit. It's like mostly that one of the highlights, I think, is that the connector for AWS is now generally available. And that really allows you to connect your AWS environment to your Azure environment, and then get the data, like the cost, the billing information from your AWS into Azure, and you have that single pane of glass view. So if you're using Azure and AWS, you can get that view as well. I think I never said so many times AWS in my life. Just want to highlight that as well. I think if I say one more time, I think something bad is going to happen. Yeah, so there's a lot of other news here as well. Again, financial reporting, cost allocation in preview. What I also want to highlight is what I was not aware of until this blog post. There is also a cost management labs. So where you actually get preview support for certain stuff when it comes to cost management. And then you can go out and provide feedback on this, right? So that is all about that. So you can find that blog post in our IT Ops Talk blog with the link. And there is a link in there to go to the cost management lab as well. And again, there are a couple of new things you can try out. Dark theme support for the tiles, cost management, overview for quick access to different scopes. So making that, especially like in this case, making especially the portal part, the viewing part, much better. Now, the team didn't just stop by announcing again a couple of new reporting features and so on. They also showed this very interesting piece here, which is called 15 Ways to Optimize Your Azure Cost. And I remember our team have written similar blog posts on this, but I think this is also a very good piece, very short, linking to the right resources And I really hope that a lot of you are already familiar with it. One of the first one they're actually mentioning, and that is actually a very good point, I did not mention that before, is the link to the Azure well-architected framework. Because it's all about like how do you architect your solution, right? And there are ways you can actually optimize it, which will help you saving costs on your Azure services and on your Azure spending. I also highlight, if I just a couple of here, if you're still running Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2, same for SQL, and you need extended security updates, check that out. We also have an offering for that. And then obviously my favorite when it comes to like keeping an overview about what's happening and what can I optimize in my Azure environment is the Azure Advisor. So that really helps you to not just get cost information, but also like security recommendations or other optimization when it comes to resiliency and other stuff operational wise, which can be very, very helpful. So a lot of updates again on that. So Andy, what do you think?
I think it's awesome. I think it's, if you are putting together a proof of concept on a specific solution that you're building out for your organization, or if you're a student trying to learn skills on a multitude of clouds, the whole cost management piece comes, into play really, effectively in showing how much it's going to cost to actually implement or test out or try what you're trying to accomplish. It's a big deal because, cost, it does come down to cost sometimes. And when you're budgeting out your proof of concept or your new service that you're going to be deploying, you want to have that confidence to say, hey, this is the costs that are involved when I'm doing this deployment. So when you get the buy-in of the organization in terms of what you're putting forward for this, having that information readily available makes it a lot easier for budgeting purposes, makes it a lot easier for others to understand what the investment is being put forth on the service or application that you're creating. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely check out the Azure Cost Management tool.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just read some of the comments from our viewers. Obviously, since we are a fantastic live show, we also listen to our viewers. I just saw that like Richard also just said like, oh yeah, cost management labs looks like a very cool thing. And I agree. I was really not aware of that, and so no shame in admitting that. But yeah, it looks really good that you can actually get that early view on certain improvements. And then again, this is designed not to give you just an early view on what's coming, but actually give you an opportunity to provide feedback on that.
Right. So let's continue on. Next up is events, and this is the fortnight of which Patch and Switch will be on today. So in the next hour and a half, I believe it is, you will have Patch and Switch on the stream to catch the show live, twitch.tv/Patch and Switch. The other event I wanted to bring attention to, which actually happened already, but I wanted to highlight this, is Experts Live Switzerland. Now, the reason why I want to highlight this was the fact that this was an in-person event. Third-party event, Microsoft has made mention that all first-party events until July will be virtual only. There will be no in-person events. But awesome to see, the community in Switzerland came together and did this. And Thomas, you had a chance to participate. I think you were speaking at this event. Care to share your thoughts on how it went in regards to information being shared? How was it great to be in contact with people physically again? Like what was your experience there?
Yeah, no, I was super happy and super excited to, first of all, to speak again in public, right? It's always different when you do it in an in-person event instead of like doing it virtually. Not saying that virtual events are not good. It gives obviously a lot of people access to the content. However, it just feels way better. You also get more interaction. You can see are people excited or not, even if they're not saying anything. And I had a feeling that like a lot of people were very happy to come there again. Now, saying that, obviously it was not like it used to be, right? So there were obviously some measurements in place to make sure that this is a healthy and secure environment. So there was obviously enough space. People had like to the normal social distancing rules and stuff like that. So the chairs were apart from each other. There was everywhere you could watch. There were hand sanitizers. There was no rule to wear a mask because that is like in this region, there was no fixed rule, but They even offered free masks for everyone who wanted to wear a mask. So there were a lot of measurements in place to make this a very welcoming and secure environment. And I was super excited. And I think also the speakers and attendees and the sponsors, everyone was just very happy to attend. And the feedback I got, heard from people who were there at the event, it was just a fantastic event. And again, congrats to the Experts Live team there. If you don't know about Experts Live, it's really a larger organization over the world which does the regional events, country events, but also smaller user groups. So definitely check it out. Maybe there will be events close to your location as well.
And I want to emphasize this, right? The current pandemic is a very serious event, and everybody has to take precautions in regards to it. I know a couple of people are making mention of that in the chat room as well. I wanted to highlight the fact that, kudos to the organizers for taking all that in consideration, putting the best practices in place in regards to safety of those that were in attendance, and still running a very successful event, even with the challenges that we have with the current pandemic. I too am excited for the first opportunity that I can speak in public again in real time. I'm doing as many virtual events as I can, but it's like you said, Thomas, it's hard to have that engagement with those that you're speaking with when you're doing it over virtual. The tools are there. We're starting to get more accustomed to them, and Ignite was a great example of that, of more people providing feedback or input or sharing questions with us, but still a challenge. And so, the fact that, with Experts Live doing this conference, again, paying attention to the set of rules that keep everybody safe, hats off to them to running this great conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I cannot imagine. I was really happy how it was executed. Got some great feedback on that. Obviously, they took all the learnings they had from previous events and making it really good for everyone. And it was a very good experience for that. Yeah, but we're coming to one of my favorite sections of this show, I think.
The Microsoft Learn Module of the Week. Yes, it is, sir, and it's back again. So this week, it is Azure Fundamentals Part 1, Describe Core Azure Concepts. We've listened to you, the general audience, that have come in, chimed in, and said, I want to see more of this inside of Azure Fundamentals. There was also some changes that occurred in the testing made available for certification for the AZ900 certification. And so based on your feedback and the changes made, we are now into the Azure Fundamentals 2.0 offering. And so we're going to highlight the first module in regards to Azure concepts. If you are new to not only Azure, but cloud computing as a whole, this module gives you that overview or that insight in terms of terminology, architecture, security, you name it, from a high level. So having the availability to understand what cloud computing concepts are in play and what is specifically offered in the Azure offering, of course. But again, a great first step in terms of your adventure in understanding cloud implementation.
Yep, fantastic stuff there from the team. I know a lot of people who worked on this very, very hard, so great work there. The only thing, last thing I mention, by the way, if you haven't heard, AC 303 and 304, the exams to get the Azure Solution Architect are now out of beta, so you can go out and take these exams and you will immediately get your results.
Excellent. Thomas, the time has flown by, as it always does on the show. Any last words? How do people want to get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of you on social?
Just find me at Thomas Maurer on Twitter or go to my blog, thomasmaurer.ch.
And if you want to get a hold of producer Pierre, you can get a hold of him at Wired Canuck. And if you want to get a hold of me for some reason, you can get a hold of me on Twitter at Wireless Life. That's it for the AZ Update show this week. Make sure you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Cheers, all.